The stars stretched into brilliant streams of light as the UTC Unity settled into faster-than-light travel. Assembly Station 1 had already disappeared behind them. Ahead, home. 37 minutes. That was all the journey required. 37 minutes from the heart of the galactic assembly to the Sol system. A distance humanity once believed would take centuries, now measured in minutes. No one on the bridge spoke, not because there was work to do, because everyone was thinking about the same thing. Captain Amelia Reyes finally broke the silence. One person, her voice was barely above a whisper, changed the course of our entire civilization. General Hale slowly nodded. The Avari intelligence operative. Marshal Mercer folded his arms. He knew exactly what would happen if he was caught. Ambassador Lyra lowered her eyes. He volunteered. Silence settled over the bridge once again. Even Ambassador Talon stared quietly through the forward viewport. After several long moments, he spoke. He believed that if Earth survived, the sacrifice would be worthwhile. General Hale exhaled slowly. 8 months! Everyone looked toward him. That's all humanity had. He looked around the bridge. 8 months to unite an entire planet. Captain Reyes allowed herself a small smile, and somehow, we did. Mercer looked toward the stars. Then we make damn sure it wasn't wasted. No one answered. There was nothing to add. Outside the bridge windows, nothing existed except the impossible beauty of faster-than-light travel. Bands of blue and silver light drifted across the darkness like rivers. The first humans to cross the stars watched in silence. Behind them lay certainty. Ahead lay an unknown galaxy. Elsewhere aboard the Unity, the regular mess buzzed with conversation. The tension that had surrounded the diplomatic mission had finally eased. Marines shared tables with engineers. Pilots argued over simulator scores. Mechanics compared repair ideas with damage control crews. For the first time since departing Earth, the ship felt alive. Marshal Mercer stepped into the serving line carrying an empty tray, exactly like everyone else. No priority, no reserved seating, no officer's mess. Sergeant Harris spotted him first. "Mercer!" Several heads turned. Harris grinned. "You're late." Mercer collected his coffee before answering. "I was 30 seconds behind you." Corporal Bennett looked up from his breakfast. "That's still late." Mercer carried his tray over and sat down. "I see discipline has completely collapsed while I was gone." "It started years ago." The table laughed. Across the room, one of the newest Vanguard Marines leaned toward the veteran beside him. "Did Sergeant Harris just call the Marshal Mercer?" The older Marine smiled. "He did. I thought only senior officers." "No. So why does he get away with it?" The veteran shrugged. "They've earned it." Mercer never looked up from his tray. "They're also the only ones." More laughter spread around the table. The young Marine quietly decided Marshal was the safer option. Mercer took a sip of coffee. "So," he looked around the table, "what did I miss?" Harris smirked. "Bennett lost another bet." "I did not lose." "You absolutely lost. It was a technicality." "You bet against Chief Brooks," Mercer laughed. "Well, that was your first mistake." Deep inside engineering, Chief Nathan Brooks stood over a holographic projection of the Unity's reactor. Several engineers surrounded him. One pointed toward the damage estimates generated during the diplomatic voyage. "We're running within tolerance." Brooks nodded. "We are." Another engineer folded his arms. "But," Brooks enlarged several components, "but this ship is version 1. The room grew quiet. "We built her in 9 months. He pointed toward the shield emitters. "They'll need strengthening." Another gesture highlighted the point defense network. "We can improve tracking. Then the armor. We can make this stronger." One of the younger engineers frowned. "I thought this ship was perfect." Brooks smiled. "No." He looked around the room. "She's humanity's first." He rested a hand against the holographic hull. "Our job is making sure she isn't our last." Several engineers quietly nodded, already making notes, already improving, already preparing for whatever came next. Back on the bridge, the silence had returned. Captain Reyes studied the stars drifting across the forward display. The first mission had exceeded every expectation. Humanity had found allies, friends, a place among the stars. But Talon's final words echoed in her mind. "The galaxy is beautiful, but it is not peaceful." Almost on cue, a sharp tone interrupted the quiet. Beep. The communications officer looked down at her console. Her expression changed instantly. "Captain," Reyes looked over. "What is it?" "I'm receiving an automated civilian distress beacon." The bridge fell silent. "Source?" "Unknown cargo vessel." Another tone, then another. The distress call repeated across every recognized emergency frequency. Reyes stood. "Put it on the main display." The stars vanished. In their place, a battered cargo ship, 3 unidentified vessels surrounding it, weapons fire flashing across the darkness, the first real glimpse of the galaxy beyond diplomacy. The bridge of the Unity became instantly focused. The tactical display expanded across the main screen. 3 unidentified vessels, 1 civilian cargo ship. The freighter's shields were nearly gone. Atmosphere vented from several compartments as weapons fire continued to tear across her hull. Captain Reyes stepped toward tactical. "Range. Just under 4 light seconds. Closing fast." "Life signs." The operations officer hesitated. "Approximately 40 aboard the cargo vessel." He looked up. "I'm also detecting life support failures on 3 decks. General Hale folded his arms. "They won't survive much longer." The bridge grew quiet. Reyes made her decision. "Bring us out of FTL." The navigator looked over. "Captain, we'll reveal our position." "Exactly." "Aye, Captain." The stars snapped back into existence. The Unity emerged from faster-than-light travel in a brilliant flash several thousand kilometers from the battle. Every sensor in the area immediately registered the arrival. On the battered cargo ship, hope. On the pirate vessels, confusion. 3 unfamiliar warships had surrounded the freighter only moments earlier. Now another vessel had appeared. Larger, angular, grey, built with clean military lines unlike anything in their database. One pirate commander stared at his tactical display. "Identify that ship." "No match, no registry, no transponder on record." Another officer looked up. "Unknown design." The commander frowned. "A new civilization?" A transmission request appeared on the Unity's bridge. "Captain," Reyes nodded. "Put them through." A scarred alien face appeared on the main display. Cold eyes, old scars, confidence. He looked Reyes up and down with obvious curiosity. "Unknown warship." His translator hesitated before finding the correct words. "This matter does not concern you." He gestured toward the cargo ship. "Leave. No harm will come to your vessel." Silence. Captain Reyes met his eyes without expression. "This is Captain Amelia Reyes of the Terran collective warship UTC Unity." Her voice remained calm. "You're attacking a civilian vessel. Disengage immediately." The pirate commander laughed, a deep, genuine laugh. "Or what?" He leaned closer. "There are 3 of us." His smile widened. "There is one of you." Several pirates behind him chuckled. "We are giving you an opportunity. Take it." No one on the Unity laughed. Reyes looked toward tactical. "Weapon status. Railguns charged. Missiles armed. Point defense online." "Marines," Mercer answered from the back of the bridge. The Vanguard is standing by. He glanced toward the tactical display. If they board that freighter, we're going with them. Reyes nodded once. I was hoping you'd say that. The pirate commander grew impatient. Have you made your decision? Reyes looked directly into the camera. Yes. She reached forward and ended the transmission. The bridge remained silent for exactly 1 second. Then, battle stations! The klaxon echoed through the ship. General quarters, all hands to battle stations. Engineering acknowledged immediately. Reactor to combat output. Weapons, railguns standing by, navigation, attack vector plotted, damage control, repair teams ready, medical. Trauma bays prepared. Mercer keyed his radio. Vanguard. A dozen acknowledgements answered. Lock it down! Marines across the ship sealed helmets, checked rifles, and moved toward assault shuttles. Nobody knew what waited aboard the freighter. Nobody cared. There were civilians to save. On the pirate flagship, the commander watched the human vessel accelerate directly toward them. He frowned. They're charging? One of his officers swallowed. I believe they are. The commander stared at the tactical display. They're outnumbered. Another pause. They're accelerating. For the first time, the pirate commander stopped smiling. The distance between the ships vanished with frightening speed. On the bridge of the Unity, every console came alive. Captain Reyes stood calmly at the center of the bridge, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. Tactical. The officer answered immediately. The pirate vessels are separating. 3 red contacts spread apart. One climbed high above the engagement. Another dropped below the orbital plane. The third accelerated straight toward the crippled freighter. General Hale narrowed his eyes. They're trying to surround us. Reyes nodded. They've done this before. They weren't desperate criminals. They were experienced raiders. The lead pirate ship fired first. Brilliant bolts of plasma streaked across the darkness. Incoming! The Unity's point defense batteries erupted to life. Interceptor fire reached out, destroying several incoming rounds. Others slipped through. The first impact slammed against the shields. The deck vibrated beneath everyone's feet. Forward shields holding. 97%. Another volley followed almost immediately. Missiles. Point defense destroyed 2. The third struck the port bow. The bridge lights flickered. Warning tones echoed throughout the ship. Minor hull damage. Shield strength 92%. Chief Brooks' voice came over the intercom. Engineering. Minor structural damage. Nothing we can't handle. Reyes never looked away from the tactical display. Return fire. The Unity answered with terrifying precision. Twin magnetic railguns fired almost simultaneously. 2 tungsten penetrators crossed the battlefield in the blink of an eye. The lead pirate vessel never had a chance. 1 round punched completely through its centerline. Atmosphere, debris, and burning machinery exploded into space. The ship rolled violently. Power signatures collapsed. It drifted away, dead. Silence settled across the bridge. The tactical officer stared at the display. Kill confirmed. General Hale quietly whispered, My God! Mercer watched without emotion. 2 left. The surviving pirates adapted instantly. They're changing tactics. Instead of charging, the remaining 2 ships split even farther apart. Crossfire. Weapons struck the Unity from opposite directions. The bridge lurched violently. Warning lights flashed crimson. Hull breach! Deck 7! Port shield emitter offline! The ship shuddered as atmosphere vented into space. Damage control alarms echoed through every compartment. Chief Brooks remained remarkably calm. Damage control teams are sealing the breach. Emergency bulkheads holding. We've lost shield emitter 3. We're still in the fight. Reyes acknowledged with a single nod. Keep us there. You have my word. Mercer steadied himself as another impact rattled the deck. He activated his headset. "Vanguard!" One acknowledgement after another answered. "Harris." "Ready." "Bennett." "Locked and loaded." "Medical." "Standing by." Mercer smiled. "Outstanding." Another explosion shook the ship, this one harder than the last. The Marines exchanged brief glances. For the first time, they realized the Unity could bleed. On the pirate command ship, the commander stared at his tactical display. One of his ships was gone. The unknown warship refused to retreat. Even after taking repeated hits, he frowned. What kind of people run toward a fight? No one answered. The civilian cargo ship drifted helplessly through the battle. Emergency lighting flickered behind shattered viewports. Life support continued to fail. Stray weapons fire hammered what little shielding remained. Inside, crew members struggled to seal ruptured bulkheads. Families huddled together. Some prayed, others simply waited. A frightened child buried herself against her mother as another explosion echoed through the hull. Somewhere aboard, someone whispered, "Please, don't leave us." Captain Reyes studied the tactical display. One pirate vessel was already dead. The remaining two had spread apart, firing from opposite directions while the crippled cargo ship drifted between them. The Unity was taking every shot, but the freighter was still exposed. Stray fire continued striking its failing shields. Reyes watched another weapons burst past, dangerously close to the civilian vessel. "Helm, Captain, put us between the freighter and the remaining raiders." The helmsman glanced at the tactical display. "That'll limit our maneuvering room." "I know." "Aye, Captain." The Unity rolled hard and accelerated across the battlefield. The two pirate ships never stopped firing. Plasma and missiles hammered against the human warship as she moved directly between them and the damaged cargo vessel. The freighter disappeared behind the Unity's massive hull. Another broadside struck. The bridge shook violently. Forward shields down to 68%. Port armor taking direct fire. Multiple compartments reporting damage. Reyes never took her eyes off the remaining pirate contacts. "Hold position." General Hale looked toward her. "We'll be absorbing everything they fire." Reyes nodded. "That's the idea." Behind them, the cargo ship finally had cover. Ahead, two pirate raiders continued their attack, and between them stood the Unity. The battle had become a test of endurance. The Unity no longer maneuvered for advantage. She endured. Every second she remained between the pirates and the freighter was another second innocent lives survived. "Tactical." Captain Reyes never raised her voice. "Report." The tactical officer answered immediately. "Forward shields at 32%. Port armor sustaining heavy damage. Primary railguns remain operational." Chief Brooks' voice came over the intercom. "Captain." A pause. "We're starting to lose compartments." Reyes closed her eyes for only a moment. "Understood." Another pirate volley slammed into the Unity. The deck lurched violently. Emergency lighting flooded the bridge. "Hull breach." "Deck 12. Damage control responding." Another alarm. "Medical emergency." The bridge remained calm despite the chaos. No one shouted. No one panicked. Professionals simply did their jobs. Mercer keyed his headset. "Casualty report." The answer came several seconds later. 4 confirmed dead. The bridge grew noticeably quieter. Another voice followed. 7 wounded. Mercer lowered his head for a brief moment, just long enough to honor them. Then he looked up. "We'll remember their names." There was no time to grieve. Not yet. "Tactical." "Captain, can we finish this?" The tactical officer studied the firing solution. A slow smile crossed his face. "Yes." He highlighted the damaged pirate vessel. "They exposed their reactor shielding." Reyes nodded. "Rail guns. Fire!" The Unity's magnetic cannons thundered once more. Twin tungsten penetrators crossed the void. The first missed by only meters. The second struck exactly where the tactical officer predicted. The pirate ship erupted in a blinding flash. Its engines failed instantly. Power cascaded across the hull as entire sections of the vessel went dark. The raider began tumbling uncontrollably through space. Not destroyed, finished. The remaining pirate commander stared at the tactical display. One ship destroyed. One crippled beyond recovery. His own vessel had suffered damage throughout the engagement. He had expected frightened civilians. Instead, he had found warriors. "Helm." His voice was low. "We're leaving." No one argued. The surviving pirate ship rolled away from the battlefield before engaging faster than light travel. Within seconds, it was gone. Silence settled over the battlefield. Only drifting wreckage remained, and the battered cargo ship. Captain Reyes looked toward Mercer. "They need us." Mercer was already moving. "I know." Inside the Marine Ready Bay, alarms still echoed throughout the ship. Emergency crews rushed stretchers toward medical. Damage control teams disappeared into smoke-filled corridors. The smell of burnt wiring filled the air. Mercer stepped aboard the lead assault shuttle. Sergeant Harris climbed in beside him. Corporal Bennett followed. Behind them came the rest of the vanguard, not alone. Navy corpsmen secured medical equipment against the bulkheads. Doctors reviewed alien anatomical references one last time. Engineering specialists loaded emergency hull patches, portable atmosphere generators, structural braces, and power restoration equipment. One young engineer looked toward Mercer. "We've never worked on an alien ship before." Mercer secured his harness. "Then today we learn." The shuttle doors closed. Around them, more shuttles launched from the Unity, not carrying reinforcements, carrying hope, medical, engineers, Marines, everyone the cargo ship needed. Captain Reyes watched the assault craft disappear through the forward viewport. General Hale stood beside her. "We won." Reyes looked across the damage reports filling her display. Scorched armor, hull breaches, 4 names already appearing on the casualty list. 7 more crew members fighting for their lives. She slowly shook her head. No. She watched the shuttles disappear toward the freighter. "We survived." The bridge fell silent. No one corrected her. Because everyone understood the difference. The battlefield had fallen silent. The wreckage of one pirate vessel drifted lifeless through space. A second spun slowly, powerless but intact. The third had vanished into faster-than-light travel. Only the damaged cargo ship remained. Its engines were dark. Atmosphere still escaped from multiple sections of the hull. Life support flickered. Dozens of emergency beacons pulsed weakly into the darkness. The assault shuttles departed the Unity one after another. Not carrying boarding parties, not carrying weapons teams, carrying rescue teams. Marshal Mercer sat in the lead shuttle. Across from him sat Sergeant Harris and Corporal Bennett. Around them, Vanguard Marines checked weapons one final time, not because they expected another fight, because they never assumed one was over. Behind them, Navy corpsmen secured trauma kits. Doctors quietly reviewed everything they knew about Avari, Sylvan, Vesta, Dern, and a dozen other assembly species. One physician finally broke the silence. "We've practiced." He looked down at his medical tablet. "But we've never actually treated anyone." Another doctor smiled nervously. "I guess today's orientation." Mercer looked up. "No." Everyone looked toward him. "Today's someone's worst day." The shuttle became quiet. The engineering shuttle followed close behind. Portable atmosphere generators, emergency hull patch systems, structural support braces, power restoration equipment, everything that could keep a dying ship alive long enough to reach safety. Chief Brooks watched from the Unity's engineering control station. "Tell those engineers," he smiled slightly, "not to make me jealous." The lead shuttle settled gently against the freighter's battered airlock. The docking clamps locked with a heavy metallic thud. Green lights illuminated. Seal confirmed. Mercer stood. Harris. On me. Bennett. You're with medical. Aye. The inner hatch cycled open. Smoke rolled into the shuttle. Emergency lighting painted the corridor deep red. The smell, burned insulation, coolant, blood. Mercer stepped through first. His rifle remained lowered. The corridor was filled with frightened civilians. No one spoke. They simply stared. A small child clung tightly to an older woman's leg. Neither had ever seen a human before. Neither knew whether these strangers had come to save them or finish what the pirates had started. Mercer slowly removed his helmet. He knelt until he was at the child's eye level. Then he smiled. We're here to help. The universal translator echoed his words a heartbeat later. The child's fear began to fade. The cargo captain stumbled into the corridor, supported by 2 injured crew members. His left arm hung uselessly. His uniform was torn and stained with blood. He stopped when he saw Mercer. You! Mercer nodded. Marshal Mercer. The captain stared for several long moments. You came. Mercer looked past him toward the wounded. You asked. Without another word, corpsmen and doctors moved past him. Training disappeared. Instinct took over. One corpsman knelt beside a 4-armed crewman whose breathing had nearly stopped. Another doctor examined injuries unlike anything found in human anatomy. An engineer immediately began directing portable atmosphere into a failing compartment. Another welded emergency braces across a fractured support beam. The Marines spread throughout the vessel, not clearing rooms, helping move the injured, carrying debris, restoring power where they could. For nearly 2 hours, the cargo ship became an extension of the Unity. Captain Reyes watched the operation from the bridge. General Hale quietly approached. They're doing good work. Reyes nodded. They are. She looked toward another display. Damage reports continued arriving from throughout the Unity. 4 names, already etched into history. 7 more sailors remained in surgery. Chief Brooks' voice finally came over the intercom. Captain, engineering. We've stabilized the ship. He paused. But she's going to need months in dry dock. Reyes smiled faintly. I'll tell the shipyards to get ready. Far below, the frightened child Mercer had spoken to earlier quietly tugged on his sleeve. Mercer looked down. The child held out a small carved wooden figure. It was worn smooth with age, obviously treasured. The universal translator spoke softly. For saving us. Mercer looked at the tiny carving, then gently closed the child's fingers around it. Keep it. The child looked confused. Mercer smiled. I think it belongs with you. The child smiled for the first time since the attack. Sometimes, no translation was necessary. Nearly 3 hours passed before the last emergency compartment was secured. Portable atmosphere generators hummed steadily throughout the cargo ship. Temporary structural braces held fractured bulkheads in place. Power had been restored to life support. Not enough to continue the voyage, but enough to keep everyone alive. The engineers finally stepped back from their work. One wiped grease from his face and smiled. She'll make it. Another looked around the battered compartment. Barely. The medical teams were just finishing. What had begun as organized triage had slowly become something much more familiar. Patients, doctors, hope. Several of the alien crew had survived only because human physicians were willing to attempt procedures no textbook had prepared them for. Others had taught the humans just as much. An Avari physician quietly approached one of the Navy surgeons. I've never seen that technique. The surgeon removed his gloves. Neither had I. The Avari tilted his head. It was effective. The surgeon smiled. I'll admit, I was making some of it up. For the first time in hours, the exhausted doctor laughed. So was I. Further down the corridor, Sergeant Harris helped lift a collapsed support beam, while Bennett guided frightened civilians toward a safer compartment. One elderly crewman stopped in front of Harris. He bowed deeply. The universal translator spoke. "My family lives because of your courage." Harris looked almost embarrassed. "I was just doing my job." The elderly crewman smiled. "Perhaps." He looked around at the Marines. "But I believe your people have chosen a very honorable profession." Near the primary airlock, the cargo captain stood beside Mercer. The damage throughout his ship was impossible to ignore. Scorched bulkheads, collapsed corridors, emergency patchwork holding the vessel together. He looked toward the Unity through the viewport. The Terran warship bore scars of her own, blackened armor, missing hull plating, entire sections surrounded by repair drones. Even from here, the damage was obvious. The captain spoke quietly. "She protected us." Mercer nodded. "She did. I watched your ship place herself between us and the pirate guns." Another long silence followed. "We've never seen anyone do that." Mercer looked out at the battered warship. "We don't leave people behind." The captain turned toward him. "I offered payment." Mercer smiled faintly. "I know. You refused." "I did." The captain studied him for a moment. "I still don't understand." Mercer rested a hand against the damaged bulkhead. "One day, someone else will need help." The captain listened carefully. "When that day comes, answer." The cargo captain remained silent. Finally, he slowly nodded. "You have my word." Mercer extended his hand. The captain looked at it curiously before taking it. A human handshake, a simple gesture, one that neither of them would ever forget. Back aboard the Unity. The last shuttle settled into its hangar. Mercer was the final person to step through the hatch. Captain Reyes was already waiting. "Status." Mercer removed his helmet. "They're stable." The engineers bought them enough time to reach the nearest assembly repair facility. "And the wounded?" "The doctors saved everyone they could." Reyes nodded. "Good." Mercer hesitated. "How are ours?" The smile disappeared from her face. "The same. 4. Neither of them needed to say the number aloud. Mercer slowly looked toward the deck. "I'd like to see them." Reyes nodded once. "I thought you might." Together, the captain of the Unity and the marshal of the Vanguard walked silently toward sickbay. The corridors of the Unity were quieter than usual. Damage control teams still worked behind sealed bulkheads. Welders threw bright arcs of light across scorched armor. Repair drones crawled along fractured conduits. The smell of burnt electronics lingered throughout the ship. It was a smell every sailor recognized. Combat. The doors to sickbay slid open. Captain Reyes entered first. Marshal Mercer followed a step behind. Doctors and corpsmen continued moving from patient to patient without slowing their work. Several wounded sailors looked up. Reyes smiled. "Easy. Nobody's getting out of bed because I walked in." A few tired smiles answered her. Mercer stopped beside the first patient, a young damage control technician. His left arm was wrapped in a regeneration cast. "How are you holding up?" The sailor shrugged. "I've had better mornings," Mercer smiled. "I've had better conversations." The technician laughed despite himself. "I'll be back on duty soon." Mercer shook his head. "You'll be back when the doctors say you're back." "Aye, Marshal." Further inside the ward, one of the doctors approached. "Captain, Marshal, the 7 wounded are expected to recover." Reyes released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "Thank you, Doctor." He nodded respectfully. "They're alive because damage control reacted quickly." He hesitated. "And because several crew members ignored their own injuries to rescue others." Mercer wasn't surprised. He simply nodded. That's who they are. The doctor looked toward the far end of the ward. They're waiting. Neither Reyes nor Mercer answered. They already knew. The room beyond was quiet. 4 flag-draped forms rested side by side. No machines, no voices, only silence. Mercer slowly walked to the first. He rested his hand gently on the edge of the shroud for several moments. No one spoke. Finally, Reyes broke the silence. I keep asking myself if there was another decision. Mercer looked toward her. There always is. She frowned. You think I made the wrong one? No. He looked back toward the fallen. I think command means living with every decision. Another long silence followed. They died protecting people they'd never met. Reyes quietly nodded. They did. Mercer looked across the 4 fallen sailors. They knew the risks when they came aboard. His voice grew softer. That doesn't make this easier. General Hale quietly entered the room. He removed his cover. No one acknowledged him. He simply joined them. After nearly a minute, he spoke. They'll be remembered. Mercer answered without looking away. They'd better be. Later, the entire crew assembled in the primary hangar. The damage was still visible: scorched deck plating, temporary power cables, repair scaffolding, no polished ceremony, only a crew standing together. 4 empty helmets rested upon a simple table. Captain Reyes stepped forward. She didn't stand behind a podium. She stood beside the helmets. When we left Earth, she looked across the assembled sailors and Marines. Every one of us knew this mission carried risks. No one moved. Today, 4 members of this crew gave everything they had. She paused. They didn't die defending Earth. She looked toward the stars beyond the open hangar doors. They died defending people who had never even heard of Earth. Silence. Reyes looked back at her crew. I cannot promise every mission will end differently. I cannot promise everyone standing here will come home. Her voice remained calm. But I can promise this. She glanced toward Mercer. No one aboard this ship will ever be left behind. Mercer stepped forward. The Marines instinctively straightened. He looked across the sailors first, then the Marines, then the engineers, then the doctors. Today, you proved something. He let the silence settle. Not that humanity can fight. A few heads lifted. The galaxy already knows that. He slowly looked around the hangar. You proved humanity can be trusted. He nodded once. Carry that with you. No matter where the stars take us. No applause followed. None was needed. The crew quietly dispersed, not as sailors, not as Marines, not as officers, but as the crew of the Unity, far beyond the Sol frontier. A damaged pirate vessel limped through the darkness. Its captain stood silently on his bridge. One of his officers approached. What should we tell the others? The captain stared into the stars. He answered with only 4 words. Do not underestimate humanity. Far beyond assembly space, far beyond the trade routes, a Keth battle group drifted silently above a dying world. Orbital bombardment had ended hours earlier. Below, cities still burned. Towering columns of smoke climbed through the atmosphere. Emergency beacons continued transmitting into the darkness. No one answered them. The Keth fleet had already moved on to the next phase. Landing craft descended toward the surface in disciplined formations. No celebration, no speeches, only another mission nearing completion. Aboard the command ship, the bridge was almost unnaturally quiet. Officers moved with mechanical precision. Every report was short, every response exact. No one wasted words. A communications officer stepped forward. Commander! The Keth commander never looked away from the tactical display. Report. A long-range intelligence transmission has arrived from frontier observation. The commander acknowledged with a slight nod. Proceed. The newly discovered civilization originating from the Sol system has made its first recorded combat contact. For the first time, the commander looked up. Continue. A holographic display appeared over the command table. 3 pirate raiders, 1 unfamiliar warship, a damaged civilian cargo vessel. Fragments of sensor recordings played in silence. The Unity emerging from faster-than-light travel. Weapons fire, 1 pirate vessel breaking apart beneath railgun impacts, a second left powerless, the third retreating. The final recording showed human rescue craft launching toward the civilian ship. The commander watched the entire report without expression. When it ended, he asked a single question. How many Terran warships participated? The intelligence officer answered immediately. 1. Silence. The commander studied the frozen image of the human vessel. Casualties. The officer consulted another display. Terran vessel sustained significant damage. 4 fatalities. 7 wounded. The commander nodded once. They accepted losses to preserve civilian life. Correct. Another brief silence. They abandoned pursuit of the surviving pirate. Correct. The commander's gaze never left the display. They prioritized rescue over destruction. Correct. No one on the bridge offered an opinion. The data spoke for itself. The commander deactivated the recording. Assessment. A senior intelligence officer stepped forward. Terran military doctrine differs significantly from established assembly doctrine. In what way? They willingly exposed a capital warship to concentrated enemy fire to protect a civilian vessel. Another pause. They accepted tactical disadvantage to preserve non-combatants. The commander considered the statement. Efficient? The intelligence officer hesitated. No. Predictable? Another pause. Possibly. The commander nodded. Then it can be exploited. No one questioned the conclusion. The commander turned toward the communications officer. Prepare an intelligence summary. Priority? Routine. The officer blinked. Routine, Commander? Yes. The Sol civilization remains years from operational significance. He looked once more toward the stars. They have demonstrated unexpected military competence. Another pause. But they remain incomplete. The officer acknowledged the order. Yes, Commander. The report was transmitted. Another file among thousands. Another civilization among countless others. The bridge returned to its work. For the Keth, the campaign continued.